Declaring, I don't want to work might not get me killed in today's society, but it would and has ostracized me. Work is now the almighty. Having a job is our culture's true north. When I left university, it became apparent that I needed to get a real big girl career job. All my other friends were doing it. I felt like it was my time to do the big thing. But I did not want to do this. I did not want a full-time job. I did not want a part-time job. I didn't want to work in the myriad ways it was being presented to me. I didn't want to work in a publishing house, as a personal trainer, as a receptionist, as a waitress, as a nanny, in marketing, though I gave all of them a shot. I scrolled through thousands of job listings, applying to hundreds of jobs, knowing it was not what I wanted to do. I couldn't believe that the rest of my life was going to mostly consist of doing labor for somebody else. I couldn't believe no one else was making a fuss. Why was everyone so content to just accept these bizarre conditions? Why was I so intolerant to the idea? Was I so privileged, so precious, so fucking lazy that I couldn't just accept that this is what life is? I remember the day I told my therapist I didn't want to work. She said, well, you have to have a job, Amy. And I said, well, that's fucking bullshit. I absolutely didn't. I believe from memory, I just cried. For me, hearing that from my therapist's mouth was devastating. I think about this therapy session all the time. I was so fucking embarrassed, ashamed, and disgusted. I couldn't believe I'd said those words out loud. I don't want a job. I don't want to work. I now feel a huge amount of compassion for that version of myself. She wanted a life filled with art, creation, joy, but she was being told by everyone, including her therapist, that life was actually about offices, labor, doing shit you don't want to do, toiling, drudgery, meaningless work. I now know that my feelings were more complicated than simply not wanting to work. I now know I actually have an insatiable, voracious work ethic. When I get to do something meaningful, purposeful, work chosen by me. What I was trying to say in that therapy room was this. The system fucking sucks. I don't want to spend most of my life doing something that doesn't light me the fuck up. I don't want to spend my days working for someone else, for their purpose. How can I live in a world that is demanding that of me? I have very little tolerance for a certain type of suffering. I am incredibly sensitive, finely attuned, and as soon as I experience suffering, I have to pivot. I have to pivot. I have no ability to stick it out. A quitter, you might call me. Undisciplined, lazy, childlike, weak, you might call me. I certainly called myself those things. The self-hatred that not wanting a job provoked in me, was shattering. But I now realize that my intolerance for suffering is one of my greatest gifts. I watch people who have a great tolerance for suffering as they toil away in lives they absolutely despise, and I think, thank fuck I'm weak. Thank fuck I have no tolerance for suffering. I have an intolerance for a life that doesn't sparkle. I think this perhaps is a better way to describe my condition, because I can suffer. You don't finish writing novels without an ability to withstand pain. You don't own your own business without being able to handle tax time, and that is true fucking suffering. I can move through pain. I can be ridiculously disciplined, but I have an intolerance for a life that doesn't sparkle. I must have magic. I demand a life that I love. And these demands are reasonable. And I want you to have these demands too. I'm going to read you a David Graeber quote from his book, Bullshit Jobs. We as a society have collectively decided it's better to have millions of human beings spending years of their lives pretending to type into spreadsheets or preparing mind maps for PR meetings than freeing them to knit sweaters, play with their dogs, start a garage band, experiment with new recipes, or sit in cafes arguing about politics and gossiping about their friends' complex polyamorous love affairs. I fucking love that man. Again, that's David Graeber from Bullshit Jobs. One of the most life-changing books for me. I wish I had David Graeber to talk to in my 20s. I wish I had found his work earlier. I wish my therapist had responded to me by saying, yeah, it's a shame, but we live in a capitalist world. You will need money to live. But there are so many ways you can rebel against a system that wants you to be compliant and stagnant and unfulfilled. There are ways you can reclaim your life and demand magic from it. You don't have to work in the way society is asking you to. In fact, it is imperative that you don't. Through most of my 20s, I fought for a life that I loved. Yeah, I worked in jobs I did not like / fucking hated. But I also refused to believe that this was it, that this was the way my life had to be. I didn't settle. I couldn't allow this to be it. Every job I took, I promised myself it was a means to an end, just for a little while. I wanted to be an artist, a writer. I wanted to tell stories for a living. I wanted to share ideas and connect meaningfully with this precious little time that I have. And so I went about fighting for that. And it was a fucking fight. But it was the most worthwhile fight of my life. And in many ways, it was a fight for my life. We live in a culture that venerates toiling and drudgery. Because I have an intolerance for a life that doesn't sparkle, because I have an intolerance for a life that doesn't sparkle, I created a life that was filled with meaning and purpose. Ironically, to do so, I worked harder than I ever have before, but it was work that absolutely glittered. Now I write and I talk and I paint and I connect. I do it to make money. I do it because it lights me up. I do it because that is why I am here on this earth. And my life sparkles. Yet I still feel like I'm getting away with something, like I've snuck around a compulsory part of being a human being, which is doing work that fucking sucks. We live in a world that venerates meaningless work. We financially reward meaningless work more than we compensate meaningful work. And this is what Graeber talks about so much in this book. But if you think of the way we pay middle management compared to the way we pay teachers, nurses, doctors, emergency services, all artists, if you get meaning or a sense of purpose from your work, we pay you less. The meaning is payment enough. The fact that I wanted to both write and be paid for it, that felt as taboo as saying, I really don't want a job. And these are the stories that need to change. Our work culture must change. Our veneration of toil must end. I'm going to give you another Graeber quote, and it won't be the last. A human being unable to have a meaningful impact on this world, ceases to exist. There are, of course, many ways to find deep meaning outside of our work, something that we must do. But we spend a fucking lot of time at work. We spend so much of our lives at work, and I refuse to accept that the majority of our precious, limited time must be spent doing shit that does not light us up. But that's just life, right? It really fucking shouldn't be. One more Grey Book quote. Every day we wake up and collectively make a world together. But which one of us, left to our own devices, would ever decide they wanted to make a world like this one? A lot of my writing and work is about supporting artists who want to make money with their creations. They want to sell their fucking beautiful art and make money from it. Oh, this essay sits at the foundation of why that work is so important to me. Because I want you to live a life that is filled with meaning. I want you to find work that is meaningful. I want you to earn money doing something that you fucking love. I want to wake up and collectively make a world that sparkles.